application for FNA
Èmi yóò sọ̀rọ̀.
Mo sọ̀rọ̀ náà.
No.
Àbí kí ni ìwọ díẹ̀ dáadáa?
Ó wà. Ìgbà tí ó sílẹ̀ gan.
Àbó lò ó lè tẹ kí ni bọ́tìn ẹ̀gbẹ́ ẹ̀. Kò sọ̀rọ̀ náà. Á jẹ́ pátọ̀ ọ̀dọ̀ wọn. Á jẹ́ pátọ̀.
273
Hello, good
people,
morning,
70.
everyone.
280, ó ti ń sọ̀rọ̀ like 290. 295,
Hello, good
290.
morning, good morning. Who are those murmuring again now? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
All right.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma.
Okay, this is Dr. Deleye.
Morning, sir.
So
Good morning,
if you
ma.
continue the way you are continuing, you will not get the recording. Trust me for that. This morning, I'm not the one that I'm going to take you. I'm going to hand you over to my colleague, Dr. Layiwola. Is going to take you. I'm going to make him the host now, but the recording is with me. So you continue the way you are continuing. Forget about it. You will only get the slide. So I'm saying this is the first time he's taking you. I want you to respect him, and then don't let him go with the bad impression you have been giving me. So class rep, talk to your people. We don't want to know whether they are in my 12 market, they are in Mushi market, anywhere they are, they must mute their microphone so that the class can go on smoothly and you'll be able to receive the recording. But if you do not do that, forget about it. I'm not going to give it to you. So let me make Dr. Layiwola the host now, and then he will continue with you. So Dr. Layiwola, good morning. You are welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, ma. Thank you so much, ma.
Okay. So let me make you the host now so that you can continue with them.
All right, ma.
Thank you.
Yes, ma.
So why I make you the host, I may be the co-host, but you've been in charge. And as always telling them that they should not make noise.
All right, ma.
So Dr. Layiwola, you are now the host. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to believe that they will show courtesy. Thank you.
They will cooperate. They are mature
Okay.
mind.
Okay, thank you. So some people are still on. Jonathan, Abraham. You know, Dr. Layiwola, what I do for them is that those that they disturb, I remove them and I don't report them to Zoom because Zoom may ban them for months. So I remove them so I can see some people. So thank you very much. So you can start now.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, ma. Good morning once again.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning, sir. Okay. Now, as the coordinator has said,
sorry, please, Dr. Layiwola. Dr. Layiwola, please,
yes,
please, sorry. Now, the Zoom can contain only 300, but I've linked you up with a YouTube. So it's being streamed. YouTube. Those that cannot join now, it will Zoom will direct them directly to Zoom. So don't say that you are not in class, you are in class. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Layiwola. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, ma. All right. So, good morning once again. I'm Dr. Olayiwola, A.S. Olayiwola. That is my name. And as the coordinator has already said, I'll be taking you through the lecture for today. And I've already given her my words that I trust you, that you guys will have mature mind. And I believe that you are not going to disturb the class. And because your cooperation determines how much or how well I'm going to take you in the class. You know, is in form of demand and supply. If somebody is willing to supply and the consumer is not ready to demand, then there's nothing you can do. And at the same time, if you are willing to get what is being produced or supplied, at the same time, the producer we have no choice than to give you what you want so that you satisfy your desire. So I think that on the basis of that, we're going to start the lecture for today, okay? Which has to do with the market theory and the concept of demand and supply.
So,
Okay?
Dr. Olayola, sorry. Please, since you are now the host, I want you to enable, because while we started, I disabled the recording. So you can enable it from your side. I paused the recording. So enable it now.
But it's like recording has started because it's telling me that I should stop. The only option that I have here is stop recording. That shows the recording is on.
Okay.
Because the option that I have here is stop recording.
Okay, can you see that green arrow? Can you see that your end?
Yes, marked. Green arrow marked, record live is on. So recording is on.
Please, let's do something. I want to be sure. I want to be sure, since you have told them that they will be, they will behave. So let me claim the host now and ensure that it's being recorded. Then I will now make you a host. Please, just bear with me. Let me just do it. Okay. So now I've enabled the recording now. So then I will now make you the host. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe that will allow me to share my screen. I want to believe they all have the PowerPoint already, the slide already, but notwithstanding, I can still share the screen.
Okay. Yes, you can share it now. Since you are the host, it's being recorded. You can share your screen. Thank you.
If coach is casting you, maybe you have to leave the class, because I don't know all these things you are saying now. Please behave yourself, okay? All right, I'm trying to share my screen, but at the same time, if I'm unable to do that,
you are unable to share the screen?
Yes, ma. Because it's telling me stories. Start share bits.
Okay, can you let me stop the recording first.
Please, all my fellow students, please kindly mute your mic for Christ's sake. Mute your mic, please. Mute your mic, please. We are all mature, please.
Okay, Dr. Olayiwola.
Ma.
Can you send the slides to me through a WhatsApp? You know, I sent it to you yesterday, but I'm not. I'm using another laptop now.
I will do that.
Okay, send it so that I can help you to be to put it there. Then you'll be able to, when you become the host, you'll be able to share it. Thank you.
Okay, ma. Thanks, ma. The slide has been sent to you, ma. Hello, ma. Are you with me, ma? Okay, I guess the coordinator is muted. Okay, while that is ongoing,
yes, you can. I'm opening it so that I will share for you. Then you'll be able to see it.
So let's continue with the lecture, and I will have to go over what I said earlier on the other time. I said something regarding the brief way, a brief way of introducing into the lecture, that there is always a supply side to everything in life and a demand side to everything in life. And as we are in this room now, we discover that you are in to get some things, and I'm in to deliver some things. So that shows somebody is on the supply side, another person is on the demand side. So on that note, we'll start the lecture for today, which falls under the concept of price theory or markets depending on the way you view it.
Can
Briefly, let me.
Can
Yes,
you see this? Can you
the
see the
slide is
slide?
on.
Okay, so
Yes, yes, and I would
let me
like
make
them
you
to
the host.
confirm. Yes, and I would like them to confirm if they can see the slide now.
Yes, we can
Yes,
see
we
it.
can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
All right.
Yes,
Okay,
we can
okay,
see it,
good,
sir.
good. Okay. So let's continue now. All right. So now, on that note, I would like to introduce you briefly to the outlines, things that you are expected to know regarding this lecture, which I called the possible outcome, learning outcome, objective, and what have you. So today we shall be considering few things, and I would like you to pay attention to this. The first thing we'll look at briefly the concept of price theory, how it applies to demand and supply, because I don't want to just start from the concept of supply and demand or demand and supply. So you need to know what actually led to that as an introductory way of telling you the concepts. Then after that, we look at concept of supply, briefly, the definition of supply, factors affecting demand, we can call it determinant of a factor affecting supply, and we can also call it determinant of supply. Then we look at law of supply. What does the law say? Then we look at other concepts like supply schedule, supply curve, then types of supply. Okay. Then after that, we look at the concept of demand. Then what is demand? What are the major factors affecting demand or determinant of demand? Law of demand, demand curve, demand schedule, types of demand. Then we now look at the interaction, which we call the concept of market price and market equilibrium. So I think by the time we say one or two things regarding this concept, we'll be able to understand some things. So we look at price theory, how it applies to demand and supply, concept of supply, definition of supply, factors affecting supply or determinants of supply. Then you should be able to explain or state the law of supply at the end of the lecture. Then you should be able to tell us the difference between the supply schedule and supply curve. Then what are the different types of supply that we have? Okay. Then concept of demand. You should be able to define demand at the end of the class. To be able to tell us some of the factors that can affect demand or determinants of demand. Then you should be able to state the law of demand. Then at the same time, you should be able to differentiate between demand curve and demand schedule, and probably types of demand. Then at the end of the day, you should have better understanding about how demand and supply interact to bring about market price and market equilibrium. So I think those are the possible lesson outcome or learning outcome. And I want to believe that you're going to cooperate and we enjoy the lecture together. All right. So price theory or theory of price. This involves the process by which the monetary value, when you're talking about price has to do with the monetary value given to commodity. It could be goods, it could be services. Okay. And the essence
Please,
of
I can't
this
see your
is just
slide, sir. I can't see your slide, sir.
the slide is there now. Some people confirm they could see it.
We can see it,
it's not
but
moving,
it's
sir.
not moving.
It's not moving
It's
to
not
the
moving.
next
Not
one.
moving.
Yes,
Just from the theory of
I'm
price.
not.
We can see it, but it's not
I'm just
moving.
giving you
It's
the
not
introduction
moving.
now. I'm giving you the introduction.
Okay.
Just listen. Look at the outline. Didn't you follow the outline? What you expected to learn?
The
I
outline
said
is
no
not
briefly
showing,
outline.
sir.
There was
Only
no
the
outline,
demand
Outline is
sir.
and
not
supply
showing, it's
that we
just
It's
can
not
theory
showing,
of
see.
sir.
supply that is on our screen.
I'm
You
not
just
giving you outline. There is no slide for outline. I'm telling you the expected learning outcome. The slide, that is the first slide there. You could see slide 1. Look at it there. I'm not to read the slide to you. I'm lecturing you. So you pay attention.
Okay, sir. Okay,
The
sir.
first thing you see here is supply. So I didn't want to start with supply. So I have to introduce you to the concept. So how do we come about supply and demand? The essence is from the concept of market theory, price theory, which talk about what? The monetary value attached to the commodity. And I'm telling you that this has to do with the interplay between the forces and demand and supply. For you to determine price, there must be interaction between demand and supply. So that is the origin. That is what I'm trying to tell you. The first thing that I told you about is just to tell you the learning outcome, what you are expected to learn and what you should be able to get.
Sir,
Okay?
sorry. Sir, good
No,
morning,
don't
sir.
worry.
Sorry.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm just telling you that it's not that maybe for the fact that you didn't see those slides does not mean that what I'm telling you is not. It's everything that I've said. They are in this slide. Okay?
Okay, but the
Uh-huh.
things that you list, you say that we'll learn, I did not get it all, please, sir. Can you come again, sir?
Please, I would like you to pay attention. Time is
Okay.
of essence here. Okay?
Okay,
We
sir.
have other
Okay,
things
sir.
to do. As we speak now, we have already spent about 17 minutes, and these are
So,
now class.
sorry, sir.
Okay. These things things that I'm going to teach you in this lecture, they are in the slide. But I just want you to have a knowledge of what you're going to do and what you're expected to learn. And that was why I listed it that, okay, even though I've talked about the price theory now briefly, how it has to do with interplay between demand and supply. I said, okay, we'll look at the concept of supply. That is what we are seeing now. Then,
Yes.
what are the things that we want to learn under supply? You should be able to define supply. What is the supply? Factors affecting supply or determinant of supply. Then, the law of supply. Concepts like supply schedule, supply curve. Then, probably types of supply. Okay. Then we look at demand. Okay, demand and supply, they are like two opposite sides of the market. They are analogous to each other. Okay, they are similar. It's only that one applies to the consumer behavior, which is demand. The other applies to the producer behavior, how the producer behave. That is supply. Okay, but I just need to let you know that these are the learning outcome, things that you're supposed to know, so that you have it. Okay, then under
Thank you, sir.
demand, we look at the definition of demand, factor affecting demand, law of demand, demand curve, demand schedule, and probably look at types of demand. But if time does not permit us, then there are certain things that will just give you as assignment, go and read, but that does not mean that they are big things. Okay, then after that, we wrap up the lesson with the interaction, which is what? The market price and equilibrium. Okay, how do we determine the market, the equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity? That's all. So I've not said much. It's not that I want to start the lecture, okay? But you need to know that it's of essence. It's important that you know what you must learn and what I'll be expecting from you at the end of the lecture. Okay? So that is that regarding that aspect. Okay? So now let's move to supply. Okay? Now, supply. What is supply? From the slide and from the general understanding that you know, that supplies also is what? Talks about how producer, okay, deal with what? With the demand in the market. That is, it represents the total amount of goods and services that producers or seller in this case are willing and able to produce in the market at a particular time, giving a particular price. Okay. Now, there's certain thing that you need to understand about this. It is not just to produce. It is not about ability. It's about the willingness. Okay. That is what makes everything effective, because you may have capacity to produce goods and services, but if you are not willing to supply it, okay, nobody will get it. Are you with me now? For example, every professor of economics, can teach you this class, but if they are not willing to teach you, you get nothing. Are you with me now? Then at the same time, from the demand side, it's not everybody in this class now that will join this class. Are you with me now? So that is the concept that I want you to understand about that. Underline that. Okay. What producer are willing and able to what? to produce, to bring to the market, there is time factor at a particular time, okay, giving a what? Certain price. All right? And you cannot be talking about it. And this is what? Is being dictated by the law. And we call that law of supply. Okay? And what does the law state? The law states that all other things being equal now, every other factors that can affect supply, apart from price, you put them on hold. And it states that the higher the price, the higher the what? The quantity that the producer will be willing to supply. Okay? In other words, this is telling us certain things about what? About the relationship between price and what? And what is being supplied. That is, there is a direct relationship. And this relationship is positive. So the law is telling us that if the price goes up, automatically supply will go up. Because it is there that it is every producer, every supplier will want to what? Maximize profit. So because of that, there is a positive relationship between price and what is being supplied. That is what that law is telling us. Okay? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now, with that law now, one factor has been established regarding the determinant of supply, which is what? Price. Price of that commodity determines how that commodity will be produced. Okay? So with that, we move to what? Factors that can affect supply. In some texts, in some contexts, you can see that determinant of what? Supply. So the fourth one is what? Price of the commodity. Price of the commodity. Then another thing is what? Consumer demand. Okay? Because supplies always comes from the angle of what? Scarcity. Scarcity comes first. And because of scarcity, demand. So you look at what consumers are willing to get. Then that also will determine what is being produced. Okay? The other thing is what? What we call material cost and availability. Because cost of production too is part of the thing that will determine what will be supplied. Okay? And how do you relate this? If the cost of production is on the high side, what happens to the supply? Supply will not be on the high side. And that tells us another relationship. Okay? So the lower the level of the cost of production, the more the supply will be able to produce. And that's the way of applying affecting supply. Then what about technological innovation? Okay? If the more you have innovation, you have techniques of producing something, then the more you'll be able to produce. Are you with me? And briefly, let me just talk about the issue of, the local way of explaining this is the farming system. You know, if you have a farmer, mechanized setting of farming, it has a tractor, all these machineries, things that can make work very, very easy, smooth. You know that particular person will produce more than a mere somebody that is doing it for sustenance. Okay, so that is what technology or innovation is telling you about production. The more you have the technology, access to technique, access to innovation to produce, the more you'll be able to produce. So that is how that part can affect supply. Then another thing you can see is government policy. You know, whether we like it or not, any part of the world, government policy affects and dictates the direction of virtually everything that you want to do in life. So that's another way. Even though you have the techniques, you have the technology, you have the mind, you have the materials, everything that you want to do. The government says this is what you can produce. You cannot go beyond that. Okay? And government policy could come in form of the taxation, which indirectly may have a way of affecting cost of production. Are you with me now? So that is another factor that can affect supply. Okay? Then other one is natural factor. Okay? Then there are other things I want to add to this apart from what we have here, and our advisor, you note them down. Price of other commodity too will have a way of affecting supply. Okay? Are you
Price
with
of
me?
what,
Another
sir?
factor,
Yes, sir.
price of other commodity, like commodities that are of close substitute to what we are producing. Okay? Then another thing is the goal of the firm too. Has a strong implication in determining what is being produced. Are you with me now? So if the
Yes,
objective
sir.
of the firm is that, okay, this is what we want to produce on a quarterly basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, it does not matter the level of demand. It does not matter the level of technology they have. That is a factor. Okay? So then another one is price of what? Or rate of factors inputs or services, which may have another way of affecting production. Okay? So now I've given you how many points now?
7.
Under factor affecting supply. Okay, let's do a quick recap.
8.
The first one.
8, 9,
Don't worry.
9, 9. The
No,
first one is
no.
9.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We will know. Number one, from what we
Price
have on
of
the screen,
price of
we have
commodity.
consumer demand. We have consumer demand. Yes. We have material cost and
Material
availability.
cost.
Yes. We have technological innovation. We have government policy. We have natural factor. We have 5 listed on the screen. Then I gave you about price of that commodity. Yes or no?
Yes.
I
Yes,
talked
sir.
about price of other commodity.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
About goal
Goal of demand.
of the firm. It's not goal of demand. Goal of the
Okay,
firm.
of the
That
firm.
is
Okay, sir.
producer. Yes, of the producer.
Go of what?
Okay.
Go of
Defend.
defense.
Producer, the firm. Okay. Then we now talk about what? Rate
Talk
of
about
factor
rates of
input.
factors, inputs, or services.
Yes,
Rate
that is
of
9.
rate
The
of
fellow
fact.
that said 9. The fellow that said 9 is
9.
correct.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
the
it's
fellow
9.
that said 9 is correct.
Rate of
Okay.
factors.
Sorry, sir.
Okay.
Rate of factors, inputs, or services.
Let's move on. So after
Sorry,
that
sir. Is
now,
it range or rate, sir?
Rates.
it's rate. So after that, we look at the concept of the supply
Rate of
curve
factor
and
what?
supply curve and
Input or output
Sorry,
okay.
sir,
or
please.
services.
Hello, sir. Madam, keep
Don't
quiet.
worry.
Let the lecturer teach now.
It's okay. Calm down. I
Hello,
said
sir.
prices or rates
Please, I
of
wanted to ask. You said rate of what?
factor inputs. Okay. That's another word for that is you can still explain that under the material cost. Okay, but I just want you to understand better. Okay, so let's not just argue about that. We still have some things to cover, and we have less than 30 minutes to go. Okay, so let's move on to the concept of supply curve and supply schedule. Okay, are you with me? Okay, yeah.
Yes, sir.
From the word schedule. Okay, in a simple term, we can say supply schedule is a table. It's a table that shows the level of relationship between supply and price, between quantity supplied and what? And price. And this, you can see this in slide, if you look at slide 4, okay? If you look at slide 4, I don't know why this thing is not.
It's not showing on the screen, sir.
I know what you are seeing is slide 3. So I'm trying to see if the coordinator can help us to. Let me see if I can see share from my hand here. Okay, don't worry. Let me see if I can use
Please, good morning, sir. I've been raising my hand since, and you've refused to allow me audience to ask the question.
It's not the time to ask
Okay.
question.
Don't
You
worry.
don't.
Don't worry. It's time for
Sorry,
question.
sir.
We
Let
still have
everybody
time
meet.
for
Let
that.
everybody meet themselves and raise their hand if they want to
Don't
ask
worry.
any question. Everybody cannot just be saying things they like at any point. So that when you call us, you can know that it's time to
my second leg of stuff, they don't carry on. No.
Okay, after the last question,
I'm trying to get to this. You see them?
hold on. I'm trying to see if I can share from my end here, but this thing is not going. But I don't think Madam is online
Don't carry
again
the second leg.
to help us move the slide. But don't worry. Okay. Okay. Now the slide. Now we are on slide 4 now. Okay, you should be able to see. Do you see something on table 1? A supply schedule for coffee. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this explains further what I just said regarding a supply schedule. I said it's a table that shows the relationship between quantity supply and what and the price. And if you look at that table, you see that we have two. Who is that person talking now? And you have been warned. Mute yourself. By now, you should know how to use online this thing. I don't know why you'll be in a meeting and you'll be talking. So now, if you look at this table 1 now, there are 2 things here. We have price in naira sign /cup. That is price per cup. Then look at cup of coffee supplied per week. When the price was 70 kobo, look at the amount that is being supplied, 300 cups. By the time the price increases to 80, we have 400 cups being supplied. You see that as the price keep increasing, what happened to supply? Supply keep increasing. And that tells us about the law we stated the other time. That is, every other thing being equal, the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied. Okay, so with that, we can say further that it shows the amount of goods and services firms are able and willing to produce or sell at various prices at what? Per unit. In other words, it's a graph. Okay, it's a graph that shows the relationship between supply and price. Now we move to the concept of supply curve. Supply curve is just a way of demonstrating graphically what we have from the supply schedule. In other words, we can say supply curve is a graph that shows relationship between supply and price. Okay, so in summary, you can say demand schedule is a what? Is in tabular form, is a tabular representation, while demand curve is a graphical representation of relationship. Did you get that? Hello?
Please
Come again.
come again. Please come again, sir.
Come again, sir.
You heard me when I said a supply curve, a supply schedule is what? Is a table that shows the relationship between supply and price. And you could see that one in slide 4, when I was explaining the relationship between changes in price per cup and changes in what? In the supply per week. Okay. And I said further that, okay, this also restates the fact that the law of supply is in place here. That is, the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied. Now, and I say, okay, supply curve now is just a graphical representation of the relationship between price and what? And quantity supplied. Okay. And if you look at slide 5, you discover that what is being represented on that schedule, slide 4, is what is being plotted here. Okay, so with that, we have the understanding and you'll be able to differentiate between the two. That, okay, the mass schedule is a tabular representation between what? A tabular representation of the relationship between supply and what? Price. Why supply curve is what? Is a graphical representation of what? The relationship between supply and what? And price. Okay, so that's regarding that aspect. Okay, so briefly, the other thing that I want you to do, but this one I will give you, is what? Types of what? of supply. We have different types of supply. The same way we have different types of what? Of demand. So that I'll give that to you. Just take note of that. At the end of the class, go and read, find out different types of supply we have. Okay? We have in form of joints, we have in form of DLI, we have composite, we have what have you, we have complementary, and I'd like you to go and read on that. Okay? So that's that. So because of our time, let me quickly go through the concept of demand. Let's go to what? Concept of demand. Okay? Remember, I said something the other time that demand and supply, they are what? They are like opposite sides, but they are similar. And that's why I use the word analogous. That is, they are similar. Whatever concept you have, whatever concept that we have treated under supply, we have them under demand. Okay? And I told you the reason why we first talked about supply the other time is because scarcity comes first. And because of scarcity and cost, price, you need to know the price of what you want to get before you demand for it. So that is the reason why supply in this essence is being mentioned first. And in some tests, in some other area, you see demand may come first, but there is no argument about that, and that does not generate any problem. So demand, what is demand? Okay, we can define demand as the quantity or amount of quantity of goods and services that individual, that is the consumer now, is willing and able to buy, okay, at a particular given time with what? With a particular price. Just the same way as I explained to you earlier that the willingness is not enough. The ability makes it complete. Okay? If I ask you now, how many of you want to get a car? Everybody will say yes. But how many has money, or who has money to get this thing? It's called that everybody will say, I don't have money, I don't have money. That shows you are willing, but the ability is not there. So for every demand to be effective, the willingness and the ability are very, very important. And that's why you see from that definition, and I would like you to underline it. Okay? Are you with me? So it's very, very important that you do that. Okay? So that is that. So now, having defined demand, we have things that can affect demand as well, which is factor that can affect demand. And this factor, they are very, very important. Okay? If you are talking about factors affecting demand, number one, you talked about what? The price of the commodity. Price is key. Price is key because what you want to buy, you must know the price. And it is that price that will help you to check your what? Your budget, your pocket. Your pocket. And it is your pocket that determines the quantity you can get, whether you even have the ability to get it. Okay? So now, if you are talking about the price, and I'm talking about your pocket, then you discover that consumer's income is another factor. The price of the commodity, factor number one, consumer, and at the end of the day, this person talking to our kids now, you want the recording to reflect this. At least you should have cautioned yourself and know that, okay, you are in the lecture room.
Sir, please remove her.
So factor number one, price of the commodity. Factor number two, consumer income. What about price of other commodity? Okay, you know, some goods, they have close substitute, which means if a particular price goes up, you want to look for alternative. So the price of that alternative commodity or good can have a way of affecting your demand. What about taste? Okay, what about expectation? So these are the things that can affect demand. Okay, so now, if you are with me, how many factors have I mentioned regarding demand now?
3, sir.
Yes, sir.
4.
8,
Hey.
sir. 4. 4, sir.
It's okay. There is no point again. Don't worry. I will list that again, and everybody pays attention. Number one, I said what? price of the commodity. Number 2, price of what? Related commodity. Okay, related commodity is talking about close substitute now. Okay, number 3, consumer income. Your income is very, very important. If you are willing to get something and you don't have money, you can't place demand. Your demand can never be effective. Then number 4, taste or preference, consumer taste or preference. Number 5, I talked about what? Your expectation about future prices. Okay, your expectation about what? Future prices.
No, please, number 5 again.
Consumers' expectation about future prices of that commodity. And let me briefly explain this. This is what this is talking about. For example, if you know, okay, let me use a regular product in Nigeria, which is PMS, Premium Motor Spirit, popularly known as what? Petrol. Okay. If there is this announcement that, okay, because of a Leia festival or what have you that is coming, by next week, the pump price will move from 1,300 to 2,500. What do you think will happen? People want to go and buy, even though it's not proper. People will still want to go and buy and stock this thing because they know that in the next few weeks, what happened? The price will go up. So that may have a way of influencing your demand. Or if there is no announcement and you just have that feeling, you have the expectation that the layer is coming or festive period is coming and the price of this particular tomatoes or price particular of this product will go up. What do you do? Yes, you increase your demand. So that is what that factor is telling us. Okay. So because of that, we now look at the law of demand. The law of demand. Okay. How does price and what we are demanding, how do they relate to one another? Okay. And this talks about the law. And the law of demand states that all other things being equal, that is, all the factors we are mentioned now, let's hold them constant. And let's assume that the only thing that keep changing now is price. Okay? The law states that the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. Given that all other factors that influence demand remain constant. That is a fact you should know. Because there are different things that can affect demand. But let's put them on hold now. The only thing we are considering is price. The moment price comes down, what happens? You increase your demand. Okay? And we'll see this by the time we look at the other concept like demand schedule and demand curve now. Okay? So that is that regarding that aspect. So price of the products, income of the consumer, okay? The weight, that's another thing that you should add to it. Weight is part of it. Okay? We talked about price of related commodity. We talked about the taste. So with that, we look at, and I'll say something about the law of what? Law of demand. And the relationship between law, the price and demand now is what? Is negative, unlike what you have under supply. Okay? If you are following under supply, I said the relationship is direct, but is what? Is positive. The price goes up, what happens to supply? Supply goes up. But under the demand now, the relationship is direct, but in inverse relation, it's inverse. It's not a positive one. It's negatively related. That is, if one goes up, the other comes down. If price of the commodity increases, what happens to demand? Demand will fall. If the price will fall, what happens to demand? Demand will increase. Okay? So that is that regarding that aspect. So with that, we'll quickly go to the next slide, which is slide 12 now. There we have demand schedule for coffee. Now, I want you to take a serious look at this particular table. Okay, the same way I've explained the supply schedule, this too also shows is a table that shows the relationship between what? The price and quantity that is being demanded. And this establish the fact that there is a negative relationship between price and what? And quantity demanded. And that restates the law of demand. Now, look at the first one. At 20 kobo, look at the demand. 1,000 cups were demanded in a week. But the moment the price increases to what? Or increased to 50 kobo, what happened? Demand reduced to 900. Difference of what? 100. When the price increased to 80 kobo, what happened? 800 was demanded. When it gets to 1 naira 10 kobo, it reduces to 700. Until when you now have the highest price, the peak, 2 naira 30 kobo, just 300. Look at it, all the way from 1,000 to 300. And that tells you something. Okay? And with that, we go to the concept of what? Supply, demand, curve. Just the same way we have it the other time. And we said it's what? Is a graph that shows the relationship between what? Price and quantity demanded. And if you now look at this curve, this one is downward sloping, like what you see in the demand, in the supply. If you look at this one is what? Run through from what? From left to right. Abi? But under supply is what? Is different from this. Why? That is telling you the relationship. Positive for supply, negative for demand. And that is the reason why you have this. Okay? Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. So having said that, now we now have a very simple concept. It's not simple, but because I want it to be simple, that's why I said simple concept. That is slide. If you look at slide 14, we talk about shifts of demand versus movement along a demand curve. Okay? A shift in demand simply tells us a bodily shift of the demand curve. Okay, a bodily shift. That is, you movement from what? D1, if you look at slide 15, movement from D1 to what? To D2. Okay, why movement along the demand curve is telling you about what? Just a movement along a particular demand curve. Okay, now the simple terms of explaining this is for you to know things that are responsible for the bodily shift, part of the factor that affects demand. If you are talking about bodily shifts or a shift in demand curve, things that can be responsible for that is basically consumer income, your income. Okay? If your income initially, maybe, okay, let's assume that you are a mature student, you are working now, and you consume certain products per month. And because let's assume that your salary or your income is 50,000 naira. So at the rate of 50,000 naira, you only consume 10 units of that particular product. So let me use petroleum or petrol, for example. You have a car, and because your income is 50,000, you only consume 10 liters per month. Okay? But if there is an increase or a change in your income, let's say from 50,000 to 200,000 naira, and the price of that commodity has not changed, what will happen? You will be operating completely on another demand curve level. Even at the same price, what will happen? You can tell them that, yeah, don't give me 10 liters again, just fill up my tank. Because money don't come now. Let me use that as action. Okay, so that is that. But when you're talking about movements along the demand curve, it's telling you changes in price of the commodity or probably some other factor. They bring about that. For example, if the price of that product comes down, maybe from 1,000 per liter to 500, with the same 50,000 naira you are earning, you know you can still buy more. Are you with me?
Yes,
But also, let's assume that you are still earning the 50,000 naira, your income has not changed, and the price increased from 1,000 to 2,000. Instead of getting 10 liters, you won't be able to get that 10 liters. You reduce what you are consuming to maybe 8 liters or 5 liters. That is what the movement is talking about. Okay, and that is what you have in that slide that says a change in demand is not the same as what? Change in quantity demanded. So a higher price causes lower quantity demanded. That is movement. But change in determinants of what? Demand, other than price, cause a change in demand. And as such, we have what we call shift in the entire demand curve. That I've just explained to you. And out of other factors, I pick income for you to understand what shift is all about. Okay? Now, when demand shifts to the right, what happened? There is an increase so that demand has increased. Okay? And as such, what happens to quantity demanded? Quantity demanded will be greater than it was before. Okay? So that is that regarding that aspect. And you have slide 15 telling us what shifting to the right is all about. And if you look at this, you discover that the price did not change. The price still remain 1 naira 40 kobo. But because there is something that has happened to the consumer, apart from the changes in price, then that brings about that. Then you have the leftward shift. Okay, this one is talking about slide 16. It's talking about if price has not changed, there's something happened. Maybe there is a kind of reduction in your salary, or maybe sales is not moving and the income is not forthcoming, and you know whether you like it or not, consumption is compulsory. Because that's why we have a particular aspect of consumption that is autonomous. So because of that, you have to just adjust. And by doing that, you reduce whatever you are consuming. And at the same time, what happens? There will be a backward shift. Okay? So that is slide 16. So now, because I want you to have time for question and answer, let me see what I can do in the next probably 2 minutes or so to talk about the market equilibrium, the market equilibrium. Okay? So I think that will help us, and we just talk about the interaction of these two guys. Let me use the word two guys. Okay? Slide 17 and 18. Okay? So now, if you look at it, from all we have said so far, or assessed so far, we discover that demand for a particular product and supply for that product, they are not separated from each other. And that was why when I started on the note that there is always a supply side and demand side to everything in life, meaning that the two legs, you must back for you to walk properly, you make use of two legs. So demand and supply are just like the two legs, okay? And they are similar to what? To each other. Whatever you have on demand side, you have on demand side, okay? Are you with me now? So then for you now to talk about what? By the time you take the two together, what happens? We have what we call equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, the interaction between the two. If you take a closer look at this figure that we have in the figure 7, that is page 18. If you look at the point, the meeting point where you have E, that is the point at which your supply, the supply is equal to what? The demand. Okay? Anything above that is excess supply. Okay? Anything below that is excess demand. And that's exactly what that table is telling you. Are you with me? That the meeting point is what we call the equilibrium point. Okay? So to explain that further, look at what we have at slide 19. At a price of 1 naira 40 kobo, what happened? There is a surplus. Because the quantity of what is being produced in terms of coffee now that is offered for sale is more than the quantity that is being demanded. Okay? But on the other hand, when the price falls to 80 kobo, what happened? Many people desire to get a cup of coffee. They want to buy more. But at that time, what happened? Supplier is not willing to supply more because the price is below the normal level. But it is only at that equilibrium level, that point E. If you look at that slide, that figure 7, that we have a situation whereby what the supplier is willing to supply is the same as what the consumer is willing to demand. Okay, so that's regarding the concept. Okay, so therefore we can say market price or the equilibrium price is the price at which the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supply. Okay, and in other words, in economics, in general notes, I don't want to say at advanced level, but it's what is obtainable everywhere. That is what is known as market clearing price. Market clearing price. Okay, because at that point there is no excess supply and there is no excess demand. What did I just say about equilibrium price now? If you are with me. Hello?
What
did I say?
It is the level well supply is equal to demand.
Exactly.
And it's also known as what?
market clearing price?
Market clearing price.
Good. Clap for yourself. I like that. That shows you are following me. It's not everybody better, but the fact that some people are still following, I appreciate that. Okay, so good of you. So that is another way of looking at equilibrium price or equilibrium. So equilibrium quantity talks about the quantity that the supplier is willing to supply, which is the same thing as what equilibrium which is the same thing as what the quantity that demand is willing to get. All
Sir,
right.
please, can you come again? You said the equilibrium what? Equilibrium quantity.
No, I just talk about equilibrium price, which is the market clearing price. Abi?
Okay.
And I said something about equilibrium quantity. That is the quantity that the supplier is willing to supply, and at the same time, the consumer is willing to demand. Are you with me? Okay, so now if you look at slide 21 now, it said with an increase in the supply of coffee, there will now be a surplus at the original equilibrium price of 1.10 kobo. Market adjustment forces will cause the price to fall until a new equilibrium is established at 80 kobo. So 700 cup of coffee we sell at this minimum equilibrium price. So in this case, we can say 700 cups. If that is the equilibrium price, 80 cup is the equilibrium price, is the equilibrium quantity. So at that point, the supplier is willing to supply 700 and the consumer is willing to buy 700. And as such, market place. So no excess on the supply side, no excess on the demand side. Okay? Are we together?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So I think yes, it is time for questions.
Yeah,
So
you said equilibrium price. You said something about it. Please, can you come again, sir?
Hello, somebody is asking question. Another person is murmuring.
Thank you very much, sir. I have a question, sir.
A lady, allow that lady to ask her question. I don't know her name. I want her to
My name is Miriam.
I'm
I'm Miriam, sir.
Okay,
My question
Miriam. Okay.
You said something about the equilibrium point. Can you please expatiate on it?
Equilibrium point. I said equilibrium price. I talk about equilibrium price. I talk about equilibrium quantity. Now, if you want to talk about equilibrium point, you can say is a point or level at which supply equals demand. Okay, but you cannot just say that in economics. We have implication for everything we do in economics. So that is why you need to apply the quantity. So it is that quantity that will tell you the point we are really talking about. And that is the quantity at which, the level at which supplier is willing, what the supplier is willing to supply, and what the consumer is willing to demand. And if they are equal, and there is a price to that, and that was why you are clear with equilibrium price. And that was why we talked about that. This slide 21, we talked about 800 kobo. That is, if a new equilibrium level is is established at 80 kobo, then the equilibrium quantity will be what? 700. That, in other words, equilibrium price will be what? 80 kobo, and equilibrium price will be, equilibrium quantity will be what? 700 kobo. So now, have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes.
All right.
Can I
Okay.
proceed?
The other.
Can I proceed?
Oh yeah. Go ahead with your question, Victor.
Thank you very much, sir. God bless you, sir.
We are done with the class, but at least there's room for question and answer. All right.
My question is very straight and direct. Which three
Okay.
factors,
How
sir?
do you know that it's straight and direct? It is when you ask me that I will know. On the
Okay,
lighter
sir.
mood, we are continue.
All right, sir. Which three factors has the greatest effect on supply in Nigeria's economy and why, sir?
Which what?
Which three factors has the greatest effect on supply in Nigeria's economy and why, sir?
Three factors.
Yes, sir. Has the greatest effect on Nigeria's economy and why, sir?
You cannot say you see the reason why I say your question now. I'm the one that will know whether it is direct and straightforward. Okay. Now, let me just answer your question in this way. It depends on the commodity we are talking about. Okay. What factors, what affects the supply of beverages may not be the same thing with what affects the supply of what do you call it? These farm produce. Let me put it that way, or petroleum. Are you with me now? But what we are teaching in economics is that, on a general note, these factors, I don't want to use the word they are sacrosanct, but there is no way they won't affect supply of anything. The more technology you have, the easier it becomes for you to produce. Okay? The lower the cost of production, the better for you to produce more. Are you with me now? The cost of that price, the higher the cost of that price, the more you are willing to produce because you make more profits. Are you with me now? Why do you think that virtually everywhere they are turning every city street into filling station, petrol station? Why? There is no any street you get to that you don't have minimum of 2 or 3 filling stations. Why do you think that is applicable? Because of the price. Are you with me now? Okay? So that is that. So you cannot say every three factors. No, it depends on the commodity we are talking about. That is the product we are talking about. Are you with me now? But anyhow you see, you look at it, this factor will definitely affect. Technology will affect, price of related commodity will affect, price of that commodity will affect. Are you with me now? Then government policy too will affect. Okay.
Population.
Sorry, sir. May I ask a question?
Okay, we have to wrap up the class now because of the.
Okay, so quick one.
Hello, sir, please. Move to slide 22, please.
I'm with you. We'll not ask your question.
Please, how do we get?
I mean, there were too many people talking, so I'll just let others go.
Good morning.
How do we get this your slide?
Thanks for.
Don't worry, the slide will be sent to you. Don't worry. The PDF version will be sent to you. The coordinator will send that across to you.
Thank you, sir. We really need the slide, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, the slide will be made available. So I think on that note, if you don't have any other question, I think
I have question.
Please, I want to ask a question.
Hello. Don't forget. Hello, I'm still talking now. The take-home assignment is for you to read more about types of demand and types of what? Supply. And I've listed about 5 or 4 to you. Just read them, understand them. Okay. So that is that. Okay. Now, 1 or 2 persons to ask questions before we end the class. Oh yeah.
Okay, sir. I have a question. So you said something about supplies. The higher the supply, I mean, the higher the demand in the law of supply. So I want to bring it into the
That is no. Wait. Let me correct you.
That's not what it
There's
said.
nothing like the higher.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing like the higher the supply, the higher the demand, and that is it. If you don't
the demand rather.
Okay. Which one are you talking about? The law of demand?
The supply.
The law of supply. I state the law. Hello. Allow this guy to state. He's the one asking the question.
Yeah, the price. I had the quantity.
I asked.
Hello. Are you the one asking the question? Olamilekan. You're not the one.
Sir, I have a question.
Okay, so
I only allow 2 more persons.
Let that person finish first. Now you guys talking.
After 2, no question again.
I think I'll go back to read up on the slide. I'll just let the others speak.
Okay, so thank God that you have that understanding.
I have a question.
The last person.
Okay, sir.
So I have a question.
How does taxation affect?
Okay. Sir, sir, in equilibrium market, you said what's it called? You said
who is talking? Now somebody is talking about taxation. Somebody is talking about equilibrium. I think I have to end this class now. So thank you.
Sir, please end the class.
It's almost 9.
Don't forget to send the slides, sir.
Don't worry.
All
right. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
All right.
sir.
Take care.
Bye-bye,
Yes.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
We don't let someone that want to answer a question answer his question.
Enjoy your weekend.
Please, where is the assignment, please?
Sir, please, there's nothing we're doing about this weekend. Answer our question first before we enjoy the weekend.
It's an assignment. Just
No
read about
assignment on
Ma,
this.
hello, sir. Where is the
read
assignment,
about
please, sir?
type something. Not that
Just said you should read.
Assignment.